If we admit that there is one truth regarding the Zonai, we can fix the entire mess that Nintendo made of them between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And the truth is this: there is not one Zonai race. There are multiple. 3 at the very least. Today, I'm going to jump down the one rabbit hole that I promised myself that I wouldn't and look at the Zonai. I will prove that we have 3 different Zonai races, and while I'm at it, I'm also going to solve another 2 pieces of lore left over from Tears of the Kingdom and answer one of my own old, most popular theories.
Ultimately, the secret stolen over all of us.
The year is 2017, and blissfully we are all sat exploring the ruins of Hyrule, avoiding guardians and picking fights with Lynels. In a small corner of the internet though, a group of gamers sit down and try to pick through the tiniest bits of lore that have been left, a literal breadcrumb in amongst the vast sea of content within Zelda Breath of the Wild. Some ruins have been left behind. Depictions of owls, dragons and boars litter the area. Floating labyrinth-like structures dedicated to this race give away a prize to do with them, an armour set known as the Barbarian Armour. But this set of armour and what we got in 2023's Tears of the Kingdom are 2 very different sides to the same coin. This left fans perplexed. How could they be barbarians and warriors, barbaric and showing symbolism of an evil that has plagued the land since time began, and be this wise race of chimeras, a mix of human and animal that wield knowledge as their best strength? Today, I'm going to fix this. I've been collaborating with a fellow theorist, Illicit XL, through the powers of Reddit, and between us, we've got this nailed down. So today, I'm going to jump down a rabbit hole that has consumed all of us since Breath of the Wild and solve this Zonai mess for once and for all. So, get your secret stones ready.
The secret stone of the Zonai. How interesting.
To subscribe to the channel and get vocal in the comments below. Let's do this. It's been 7 years, and in all honesty, we still know very little about the Zonai. But for years, it was a fan favourite topic as we all struggle to understand. What would they be like?
What would they look like?
Why are they?
What are they? They look like Ganon.
And then suddenly, Tears of the Kingdom came out and all of the chatter stopped. The love for the Zonai had disappeared, and we were left with these. There are, for all intents and purposes, 0 Zonai remaining in the world of Hyrule at the exact time where Link is wandering around in the present stages of Tears of the Kingdom. Rauru has sacrificed himself. Minru is dead and is nothing but an ethereal form. The rest, according to Ganondorf in this sequence here, are no longer around. We can presume that they are dead by this point, as Ganondorf states explicitly that Rauru and Minru are the last 2 remaining. They could have gone up further into the sky though, for all we know, but really that doesn't matter for this theory. What does matter though is that we look at the cold hard facts that we have regarding the Zonai. Once I've got these, I can sit down and work out exactly how this fits us into having 3 Zonai races. So, from Breath of the Wild, we have the Zonai ruins. These are seemingly untouched ruins that the Zonai populated, located in the heart of Faron, near the Damel Forest. Creating a Champion, the lore-filled book that was published shortly after Breath of the Wild, claims that the Zonai ruins was the home of the Zonai. They were thought to have worshipped a water dragon. Since the areas have so many rock carvings dedicated to such a being, the stone structure surrounding the Spring of Courage bears the face of a large dragon, and this place must have been a sanctuary for the Zonai as well. From earlier in the book published in the Dark Horse books, an interview with Eiji Aonuma reads, "The ruins are primarily animal themed, but with the history of the Triforce from an ancient perspective in mind. These designs are symbolic, using dragons to represent courage, owls to represent wisdom and boars to represent power. Ruins in the Faron Woods thought to belong to a mysterious ancient tribe. The Spring of Courage is found within. These words are also found within creating a champion. There are 3 labyrinths dotted around the world of Hyrule, Lome Island and North and South Lome. These also all depict the same carvings as found within the Zonai ruins, predominantly of dragons. The prize for beating each of these 3 labyrinths in the game are 3 pieces of legendary armour, the Barbarian Armour. The description for each of these references an ancient warlike tribe from the Faron region. Finally, the last piece of evidence we need is the tapestry at the very start of the game, where we see a character who has plagued me for the last 10 months. I'll explain more later. But this guy, the ancient hero, is also a massive part of this. So there's not much to go on. Not much at all. but enough when we pair it with what we learn about the Zonai in Tears of the Kingdom. Are you guys ready? The Zonai are Chimera style characters, part human and part animal. I refuse to say which animal because Rauru sort of looks like a goat, sort of like a dragon, and a bit like a human. Minoru looks more like a rabbit crossed with a human. I would presume each appearance of the Zonai looks different and therefore doesn't change with DNA, as these two are brother and sister. However, there could be a hard rule that states this is actually what male Zonai will resemble, and this is what female Zonai will resemble. The Zonai lived on the surface, then they moved up into the sky. Then the Sky Islands fell below the cloud barrier when the upheaval began. These Zonai have unbelievable magical ability, able to fire laser beams from their hands like they're channeling their inner Goku. The final two Zonai remaining are both sages, one of spirit and one of light. They seem to employ human slaves or bodyguards as seen here. These workers are given Zonite equipment, you can get hold of these too. The description for these arms are a helmet forged of Zonite. The magic infused into it during its production grants its wearer improved energy efficiency for Zonai devices. This description means that the focus of the Zonai was different in Tears of the Kingdom to Breath of the Wild. This isn't a surprise. In fact, at this point I thought I'd just point it out. The focus went from power to energy efficiency. I do love that our Zonai forefathers were so environmentally friendly. And finally, the Zonai have access to the secret stones. Okay, that's about it. All of the evidence and knowledge that we actually have about the Zonai was in that section. It's not much, but it will do. So, what can I prove with this information? Well, first of all, we don't have a clear time gap between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but what we can do is guesstimate that Tears must take place at least a few years before the events of Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom is rebuilding once again after the last calamity. Lookout Landing and the advancement of Tarry Town suggest that there's a few years here. And looking even further into it, Tulin growing up from being a young bird here to being a fledgling here indicates that there's probably a good amount of years between the two games. We can actually work it out closer with Matterson though. Matterson is the daughter of Ronson and Hudson. She is new to Tears of the Kingdom, meaning that she was born during the time gap between Breath and Tears. At Dragon Catalyst, a popular Twitterer, worked out the following. Matterson acts too mature to be anything less than a 6-year-old. Appearance wise, she doesn't appear to be any older than 7, so we can put her into the age bracket of 6 to 7 years old. Matterson wasn't born in Tears of the Kingdom, and obviously gestation is 9 months. So presuming Ronson gets pregnant the moment the calamity is dealt with, we can estimate that the time skip should be somewhere in the region of 7 to 8 years. When we look at the models for Tulin, this actually looks about right. We can likely put the time skip into that bracket, 7 to 8 years. Now that we know the time gap, we can try to work out how in 7 or 8 years all of the lore surrounding the Zonai changed from this to this, and I think... No, hang on, no, just no. We can't get from a race all about power and dedicating themselves to Ganon, judging by this helmet, to these great, giant, omnipotent furries with time alone. That doesn't work. They've changed entirely, which means these and these were never intended to be the same people, which means there was not one race of Zonai, but at least 2. Whew, we got there. That was easy. Theory over, job done. I'll see you next time. Auf Wiedersehen.
Hey, listen!
Huh? I promised 3? Ah crap. I can't even begin to explain how I got to 3 races before I explain away the 2. Once that's been done, I'm sure you'll understand how I got there. So, let's go. Breath of the Wild Zonai, I've explained to death already, are based in Faron, and have this weird cult-like vibe going on with them. Their armor sets, which is all I need to look at for the purposes of what I'm about to say, gives us 4 very clear hints to their beliefs. And it's their beliefs that set these 2 groups of Zonai apart. First of all is the name. Barbarian armor. Barbarians are, according to dictionary.com obviously, a person in a savage, primitive state, an uncivilized person, or a person without culture, refinement, or education. Take a look at a few shots here from the Tears of the Kingdom. Minoru's Grand Research Library, the Construct Factory, this pretty little pagoda. You tell me what part of this reads, there's no culture, they're uncivilized, and they're without education. A barbarian flies directly in the face of what we see here. Secondly, the description again. I'll read it out. Armor once favoured by an ancient warlike tribe from the Faron region. This war paint bolsters your fighting spirit and raises your attack power. Huh. Favoured by an ancient warlike tribe. Just take a look at these guys. These happy-go-lucky rabbit and goat people, but in all seriousness, these guys only fight when there's no choice but to fight. When the decks are stacked against them, when the Molduga are hurtling towards one of the last remaining settlements. That's when they'll attack, and not a second before. It doesn't scream warlike. The fact that it raises your attack power when the Zonai armor raises your battery length on the Ultra Hand builds shows us that the wearers of this armor were more about the act of war, raising their power when equipped with these pieces, as opposed to the wearers of this armor whose ability with technology increases. One side of the coin here is that we have a group that is governed by the premise of power, and the other, a group that are as wise as owls, able to use technology and heavily research everything before they do it. A theory-based YouTuber, if you will. These guys sit on the side of wisdom. Surely you have to understand where I'm about to come from with our 3 Zonai races. There has to be a third tribe. There's a tribe here based on power. There's a tribe here based on wisdom. I've been labelling them as 2 sides of the same coin, but I should have been labelling them differently, as 2 parts of the same Triforce. And the third part, courage, can be found here. Down below Hyrule's surface is a world filled with new areas to explore. We did a good job of that already in these 2 videos, but there was something I barely mentioned at all during those videos. Something that a lot of you had something to say on when it came to this video about the ancient hero. Who knew that I was creating an interconnected theory when I launched those 3 videos? Not me, that's for sure. But here it is. We need to analyse these statues. When we drop into the depths at certain locations, we see these statues. They pretty much depict the races we have grown to see within the Zelda series. We have the Goron, the Zora, the Rito and the Gerudo, all scattered down here, each with varying depictions of those races. But then there's a 5th. This statue confused everyone, leading people down the paths of, well, they must be the Zonai, or they must be the Mogma, or depictions of the Minish. One of these 3 is correct, but not quite in the incarnation that you think. I get it. They have snouts and we all love the Minish, so it must be them, right? Look, I'm sorry, but just like the Perella, the Kikwi and indeed the Mogma of Skyward Sword, the Minish were made for one game and its mechanics only. The Minish, as novel as an idea as they were, they're not returning back to the world of Zelda. And these statues are just way too big to be them. So let's take a closer look. We've got a clear snouted design on the face. Then we come down and we see a relatively bulky chest area that is all part of a very humanoid figure. Hands that seemingly are fingers that taper into some kind of claw by the end of them. Sure enough, they fit the description pretty well of a Mogma. And Splattered Colours, an art-based YouTuber who I think is really great, has come up with some concept art for what this race could be. She's done such a great job reimagining them as the Mogma race that it could be genuinely forgiven for us to just believe it. It looks kind of right, and on top of that, we all want to believe it's the Mogma, right? Right? The thing is, I just can't. I just can't, because the snouted design is seen somewhere else in this world of Hyrule. Not in another Hyrule, not in another game, not in the great future of the series, but in this Hyrule. Does it look more familiar now? The snout is almost the same. The body framing feels similar to that of a humanoid, the hands are almost a carbon copy. This is a Zonai. A Zonai who, unlike the other 2 before it, has not harnessed power as its main attribute and has not tried to learn everything about the world, but has rather dared to adventure into the mines where the dragons fly through. This 5th statue, the 5th race, is a 3rd race of Zonai, one that goes boldly where no others go before it, boldly and courageously. If the 2 others depict power and wisdom, this race were courageous to a fault, and perhaps it's what led to their extinction. Perhaps it serves as a reminder that those with courage are indeed not invincible, that our hero needs to watch his back, still, lest he start another timeline split. The Zonai here would have lived as 3 different units. 3 different races, the 3 living in 3 different parts of the world, each claiming their part as their own slice of Hyrule. The 5th Zonai lived here, in the depths, likely after the world was restarted in essence. The Owls lived here, in the sky, above the cloud barrier. The Barbarian Zonai lived here on the land in Faron, worshipping their deity of power. Then according to legend they just disappeared. Or did they? Or does there being 3 Zonai races, each depicting an incredibly important part of the Hyrulean power struggle, actually clear up what happened to the Zonai entirely? Did they just pick up and disappear, and now only 2 are left full stop, or was there something more? Hyrule is not immune to the effects of war. The timeline alone has counted multiple instances of war, and in Ocarina of Time you are told that you are in effect a war orphan. War is something that indeed does come around and never changes.
War. War never changes.
War is something that affects everyone within Hyrule, including the Zonai. I propose that the Zonai did not just disappear, but rather they were the first to populate this new Hyrule. However, only one could lay claim to being the first ruler. The Boar tribe set themselves apart from the dragons and the owls. They would have believed that might is right, the power is absolute, and that they could rule the world in a way that they deemed fit. This is the way of the Mad King after all. This came about after something happened within the world on the ground level, and that thing was this. So peaceful, right? This was clearly an important location for the tribes. It is the only location in the game to actively support owls and dragons, meaning that this could well have been the meeting place for those two tribes. A sort of court of the Zonai. Notice though how there are no boar here. Outcast and shunned from the other two groups, they took exception and sacked the ruins. I state that these ruins were sacked very clearly, because they were not left to degrade over time. You can see that quite clearly in fact that some of the dragon heads here are separated from the bodies. They were beheaded, desecrated. Following this, the dragons and the owls respond, but might is right in the civil war of the Zonai, and the Boar tribe are on the cusp of winning. Until the secret stone is swallowed. The leader of the dragon tribe swallows his stone and morphs before everyone's eyes into a dragon, breaking the sacred pact that had been laid down that no one could swallow the stone or face loss of control. In response, the Boar leader retorts, thus both Farosh and Dinral are born. In order to not face certain extinction, Rauru considers swallowing his own stone, but he is stopped by someone close to him who tells him that the world will need him. This would have been a member of his tribe. Someone within the royal council, as it were. This member of the Zonai also swallows the secret stone, and Naydra is born. Rauru would survive the War of the Three, and will come out as the leader of the new world, raised by dragonfire and battle, and alongside Sonia, sets to repopulating Hyrule and building atop the ashes of old. This is where the very final part of our story comes in. The ancient hero. I did not expect to see you again, my friend. I thought we were quite done with one another, but apparently the more things change, the more they stay the same. And I was never meant to get away from the topic of the ancient hero, because I got it wrong. I took a risky approach, okay? This character is Gerudo, look at the jewellery. I mean, sure, we could well have said that the ancient hero could have started the trend of passing down the jewellery for all we know. The flame red hair though, yeah sure, only one race has ever held that in Zelda history, but there's always time to start anew. And besides, this hero would have to have been born as a male in the Gerudo era, which is impossible seeing as he's helping to stop the calamity in this tapestry. Which involves Ganondorf still being in status under the castle, which means that he's still alive, which means... Oh wait, I got around that idea by saying that this character was female. That wasn't just said for the views though. I actually did think it about a year ago, but then I took a step back and took a proper look at this guy. We have a snout-like appearance. Check 1 on the underground courageous Zonai. Pointed ears and a tail pointing towards a more animalistic appearance. Check 1 on the wise Zonai that lived in the sky. We have the red hair, an everlasting symbol of the Boar of Power, which mimics closely the colour of red used on the helmets of the barbarian sets, worn by the powerful Zonai of Faron. These three somehow, whether it be through him spending time with each of these groups, whether it be that he inherited some part of all three, or perhaps was just a divine hero who was said to represent all three sides of the Zonai. Our ancient hero not only represents the Zonai here, but the Triforce. The same Triforce that was created by the god and goddesses and said to be under the protection of Hylia herself. Could it be that Hylia created the Zonai as a means of protecting the Triforce? Could it be that the Zonai wiped each other out? Could it be that these statues represent a third type of Zonai that we have yet to and probably won't get to encounter? I don't know, but I do know that I've had a lot of fun falling down this rabbit hole. Now though, I need to climb back out and dust myself off and...
Hey!
Huh?
Listen!
We're not done here? I thought we... Just when you think you're done with the Zonai, we get sucked back in. And let's be honest, Zonai theory is just the gift that loves to keep on giving. There is something that backs up nearly everything. Maybe not the stuff about the ancient heroes aspect, but certainly about there being three tribes, and it's directly in the game. I even mentioned them much earlier on in the video. There are 3 labyrinths dotted around the world of Hyrule. These labyrinths house a very crucial clue for us that I think the majority of us completely missed. When we complete these, we get a message pop up before the grate opens and send us to the depths, where we can fight a boss and pick up our evil spirit armor. The message reads, dependent on the maze that you solve: "In my name, as the ruler of the owls, I commend your achievements and offer a fitting reward." We have it confirmed, right there, that there were indeed 3 rulers, each of a different animal type. 1 representing power, 1 representing wisdom, and a 3rd representing courage. We therefore have 3 different tribes, and where our ancient hero has identifiers from all 3 tribes upon his body, it could be easily conceived that he was an elected champion of all 3 tribes. Even perhaps that his own adventure saw him currying favour from each of the 3 tribes, leading to this waste tacit being created. And with that, we really are done this time. In conclusion, the Zonai were not one entity, but were 3 separate tribes, separated by power and symbolised by the boar, wisdom symbolised by the owl, and courage symbolised by the dragon. The boar tribe were often shunned by the other 2 tribes as their belief was in power and power alone. A meeting place was set between the tribes of courage and wisdom, which upset the tribe of power. This led to a war between the tribes, led to the dragons being created, the world being raised, and led by the one and only survivor of the Zonai Wars, King Rauru. Rauru and Sonia got married, had children, the ancient hero was born, and then the rest, as they say, is history. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please remember to subscribe to the channel for more future content and smash the like button to help this video on its journey across the big scary wilderness of the algorithm. I'll see you next time. Bye!